Hi, I'm going to be continuing with Chapter 4 of the A to Z Mysteries, the Jaguar Jewel. "What do you mean?" Dink's uncle asked. "I don't see how it could be fake." Dr. Pitts rested a finger on the jewel. "This is not the original emerald," he explained. "In fact, it is not an emerald at all." "But how could that be?" Dink's uncle cried. "Look, I will show you," Dr. Pitts said. He took a small flashlight from his pocket. "Will you please pull the shades and turn off the lights?" he asked. Dink was closest to the window, so he pulled the shades down and clicked off the light over the fish tank. Josh hurried over to the switches on the wall. When the room was dark, Dr. Pitts turned on his flashlight and shone the beam on the jewel. Suddenly, the flashlight went out. Dink heard something hit the desktop, then roll off and make a soft thud on the carpet. "Sorry," Dr. Pitts muttered. "Seem to have dropped my flashlight." "Can someone please—" "I'll get it," Josh said in the dark. He knelt down and fumbled around under the desk. "Found it," he said a moment later. He stood, switched it on, and aimed the light at the desk. "Thank you, young man," Dr. Pitts said. He took the flashlight and pointed it at the jewel once more. "You see, if this were a real emerald, the light wouldn't penetrate," he exclaimed. "The light beam would go to the heart of the jewel." He tapped a finger against the jewel. "But this is just glass. Notice how the light bounces off the surface. The light does not enter the stone." He shone the light on his own face. "Of course, that is just my opinion. You are more than welcome to get another, Mr. Duncan." "I certainly will," Dink's uncle said. He walked over to the wall and switched on the lights. Dink blinked at the sudden brightness. His uncle looked very upset. "But I simply can't understand how the real emerald could have been switched for the fake one," Dink's uncle continued. "Are you absolutely sure?" Dr. Pitts nodded. "Unfortunately, yes, I am." "Then the swap must have taken place before the crate arrived," Uncle Warren declared. "Perhaps it happened in South America when the Jaguar was wrapped." Dr. Pitts shook his head. "I'm sorry, but I was there for the packing. I assure you, when the Jaguar was put into the crate, the emerald was real." Dink's uncle stared at the Jaguar. "I just don't see how it was possible," he repeated. Dr. Pitts shrugged. "Of course, I will have to report this to the police," he said. "If you want that second opinion." Dink's uncle hurried across the room and opened the door to James Pride's office. "James, please call Empire Jewelry on Broadway. Ask Regina Wu to come immediately. Tell her it's urgent." While they waited, Dr. Pitts examined the lock on the office door, then wrote something on a small pad. Uncle Warren slumped in his chair and stared at the statue. The kid sat on the rug and waited. Dink wanted to say something to his uncle, but he looked too upset. Long minutes passed, then a knock sounded at the door. Uncle Warren jumped up. He let in a tall woman wearing a black raincoat. "Warren, I came as fast as I could," she said. "The streets are a mess." They shook hands, and Dink's uncle explained about the Jaguar's jewel. "Dr. Pitts claims it's a fake." "May I?" Using a magnifying glass, Ms. Wu examined the stone for a few minutes. Then she removed a small bottle from her pocket and squeezed a drop of liquid onto the jewel. When the liquid dried, she wiped down the stone with a cloth. She shook her head. "He's right," she said. "This is a glass replica." Uncle Warren fell back into his chair. "I am simply dumbfounded." "Where did the switch take place? How? Who could possibly—" "Pardon me," Dr. Pitts said. "The lock on the door does not appear to have been forced. Who besides you has a key to the office?" "Mr. James Pride, my assistant, for one," Dink's uncle said, "and my friend Jean Paul. He owns the restaurant next door to the museum. He let the deliveryman into my office yesterday." "So this Jean Paul has a key?" Dr. Pitts asked. Uncle Warren shook his head. "Not to keep. I lent him my keys since the crate was due while James and I were away from the museum." "So 2 people besides yourself have access to the Jaguar, is that right?" Dr. Pitts asked. "Your assistant and your friend." "That is correct, but I assure you neither of them touched that statue. This idea is absurd." Excuse me, Uncle Warren, Dink said. Everyone turned to look at Dink. Wouldn't there be fingerprints? I mean, if someone did take the real jewel, they'd leave prints on the fake one, right? No one spoke for a minute. Then Dr. Pitts smiled at Dink. That's an excellent idea, he said, and I think we should ask the police to look for fingerprints. They will, of course, find mine. But unless I miss my guess, no others. Why do you say that? Ruth Rose asked. Because, young lady, Dr. Pitts said, this thief was very clever. And clever thieves wear gloves. Uncle Warren nodded at the phone. Please call the police, he told Dr. Pitts. They will prove that Jean Paul and James are innocent. Dr. Pitts looked at Dink's uncle. Excuse me, sir, but there is another suspect. And who would that be? Uncle Warren asked. Yourself, Dr. Pitts said.